Chapter 1007. Lin Muyu had experienced the power of a divine wheel. Dongfang Yan's divine will might not be inferior to that of the radiant angel's eye. It was definitely twice as powerful as the demon emperor Nuslayer's divine wheel. After all, he was a perfected emperor god in the primordial mystery land. His body was strengthened by the spiritual power, and his divine power was purer and more vigorous. Moreover, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Zhanlin, and Mochi Lin were fighting behind Lin Muyu. Once Dongfang Yan's divine will swept across the sky, the consequences would be unimaginable. With a buzzing sound, a huge golden wheel opened up in the sky. Dongfang Yan was crazy. He would rather kill his own people to kill Lin Muyu. Brother Yu, Mu, be careful. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi shouted at the same time. Then Shi Yan raised her eyebrows and said, You have no other choice. Use your most powerful divine wheel to fight against him. Only a divine will can neutralize the power of a divine wheel. Shi Yan's words were undoubtedly like a decree that could not be disobeyed, because it was the most correct choice. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. His supreme lattice shone with a dazzling radiance. 12 spirit beads of law came out of his body and surrounded him. He slowly pointed the Xianyuan sword forward. A fist-sized golden divine wheel emerged from the tip of the sword and became huge in the blink of an eye. As Lin Muyu concentrated his divine power, it continued to grow. In less than half a minute, it had already formed a huge wheel with a radius of at least 100 meters, facing Dongfang Yan's divine wheel from afar. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment Lin Muyu was surrounded by an absolute domain that no one could enter. This domain protected the safety of the person using the divine wheel, and at the same time, it protected him from the impact of his own divine wheel. The huge golden roulette was like a bright mirror that reached the sky. It was bright, clear, and radiated in all directions. Not enough. Far from enough. Lin Muyu's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. He was unprecedentedly serious. He drained the divine power in his body and poured it into his divine wheel. He knew that the strength and quantity of his divine power was inferior to Dongfang Yan, who was in the full circle realm. He could only fight against him if he was stronger. The divine wheel was a forbidden power. Even Shi Yan had not used it too many times in her life. Firstly, the divine wheel was too destructive. Secondly, the backlash on the body was too severe. Dongfang Yan's use of the divine wheel meant that he was ready to risk his life. In fact, Dongfang Yan had already noticed during the battle with Lin Muyu. Many god kings and god emperors in the Raging Fire region had already been defeated by Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Zhanlin, Mochi Lin, and others. If he could not turn the tide, the Raging Fire region would be finished. You take the power of the martial soul. The martial soul is a gift from heaven and earth to the bloodline of the Shattered Cauldron realm. Hurry! Shi Yan shouted. Lin Muyu frowned. Her long sword began to hum. The power of the 7 luminaries' holy gourd and the god-binding shackles rushed into the divine wheel. In the EC, the power of the god-binding shackles and the 7 luminaries' holy gourd were absorbed in the blink of an eye. The EC became dim, but the light of the divine wheel at least doubled. Sure enough, Shi Yan was right. The power of 2 first-class martial souls could indeed increase the power of the divine wheel by a lot. Ah ah ah, Dongfang Yan let out a heart-wrenching roar. It was probably his first time using the divine wheel. His old face looked very ferocious under the strong wind. He looked at Lin Muyu with a pair of jealous and angry eyes and shouted, Come on, let me see how powerful you, the marshal of the left army of the Eastern Heaven realm, are. Go to hell. Boom. Dongfang Yan's divine will surged forward. Lin Muyu took the responsibility. Her arms shook slightly, and suddenly the Xianyuan sword made a buzzing sound and rushed towards Dongfang Yan's divine wheel with the sound of a tsunami. However, the size of Dongfang Yan's divine wheel was at least 1.5 times that of Lin Muyu, so it was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. Most of the gods who were fighting had stopped and watched the collision of the 2 divine wheels with their mouths agape. For a moment, the sky lost its color and the earth shook. Boom boom boom. The 2 divine wheels exploded at the same time, forming a destructive hurricane. In an instant, all the plants on the mountains and the earth were quickly desolate and withered. Lin Muyu, who bore the brunt of the impact, let out a miserable howl. The dragon armor on the surface of his body peeled off inch by inch and even dragon blood flowed out. In the blink of an eye, the Acatosaurus disintegrated his body and entered a different space to avoid the disaster. So disloyal. Lin Muyu held the Xianyuan sword horizontally and concentrated the remaining divine power in the long sword to protect his master. At this time he could only resist the attack head-on. The power of the divine will sealed the surrounding area. Not to mention breaking the void, even the divine book of the law of space could not escape. Clap, clap, clap. The divine wall turned into golden energy armor and dissipated in the wind. The next moment, the fierce wind of the divine will cut through Lin Muyu's body, leaving deep wounds on his arms, chest and legs. It was really scary, but Lin Muyu held the sword and continued to fly forward in pain. He had something he had to do. Kill Dongfang Yan. If Dongfang Yan did not die, the war between the Dragon League and the Raging Fire Territory would not be over. At the center of the collision of the divine wheels, no one could get in. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were so scared that their faces turned pale. They tried to charge at Lin Muyu several times, but they could not get close to him. They could only watch this crazy guy fly toward Dongfang Yan. Dongfang Yan's body was covered with blood. His white robe was no longer holy but stained with blood. He looked even older. His blood vessels had even burst in order to activate the power of the divine wheel. It was a horrible sight to see. But his eyes were still filled with hatred and resentment when he looked at Lin Muyu. He wanted to kill Lin Muyu just like Lin Muyu wanted to kill him. There could not be two tigers in one mountain. This was probably the feeling. In the south of the 64 regions, there could only be one king who could guard the whole region. Bastard! Dongfang Yan roared angrily. His left hand was facing Du and his right hand was rainbow light, slashing toward Lin Muyu. But Lin Muyu just swung the Xianyuan sword. With two clangs, Dongfang Yan's swords were knocked away. Both of them had almost used up their divine power. The collision at this time was just a contest of mortal strength. At this time Lin Muyu's advantage also showed. He was young while Dongfang Yan was already an old god in the ancient mystery land. He had lived for thousands of years. According to the age of the gods in the ancient mystery land, he was about to die. How could an old god compare to a young and strong god like Lin Muyu? Puff! Dongfang Yan spat out a mouthful of blood. He waved his swords weakly and slashed again. He didn't even have the strength to control his swords. Lin Muyu swung his swords with both hands. With two clangs, Rainbow Light and Du's flying swords were knocked away. Then he lifted his boot and kicked Dongfang Yan's abdomen. With a muffled sound, Dongfang Yan slid down from the sky. Behind him, the gods of the Raging Fire region were all stunned. No one had thought that Dongfang Yan, who was so powerful in the Raging Fire region, would end up in such a miserable state. Go to hell. Lin Muyu flew down from the sky, and the Xianyuan sword went straight for Dongfang Yan's neck. But Dongfang Yan seemed to have some strength left. He hurriedly dodged sideways. He dodged the attack on his neck but failed to dodge the attack on his arm. With a crack, the Xianyuan sword was so sharp that it directly cut off one of Dongfang Yan's arms. Save the region, master. Several gods of the Raging Fire region shouted, but most people stood there dumbfounded. The invincible Dongfang Yan was defeated. To them this was like a fairy tale. How could Dongfang Yan be defeated? He was an invincible being. Protect Lin, General. The power of the divine wheel had completely begun to fade. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi arrived at the scene immediately. They protected Lin Muyu from both sides in case he was ambushed. Meanwhile, Feng Zhanlin, Mochi Lin, and the others led the army of the Dragon League to attack Dongfang Yan. It seemed that they were going to devour the gods of the Raging Fire region. Lin Muyu looked straight at Dongfang Yan falling into the dark mountains. Her body trembled slightly and she said, Don't let Dongfang Yan go. Bring his head to me. Yes, Lin, General. Feng Zhanlin, Mochi Lin, Luo Xingtian, and the others rushed forward without a care for their own safety. The world was once again filled with colorful divine power. Lin Muyu's battle was over, but the battle of the Dragon League was not over yet. In this battle they had to kill Dongfang Yan and capture the gods of the Raging Fire region. Otherwise they would have fought a big battle for nothing. How are you? Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu, who was covered in blood. She was scared out of her wits. I'm fine. Lin Muyu smiled, but she was in pain all over her body. Her face was covered in cold sweat. She held Qin Yin's shoulder with one hand to keep herself flying in the air. She said, Xiao Yin, stay here to protect me. Xiaoxi Fuzhu, go and help them. The Dragon League needs your strength. Remember, don't kill people. Just injure them. Don't let them escape. The more the better. Tang Xiaoxi nodded happily. Lin Muyu raised her hand and handed the Xian Yuan sword to Shi Yan. She said, "Can I borrow it for a while?" Shi Yan shook her head and smiled. "No need. I will stay here with Xin to protect you. I don't want to kill too much." "Okay." Lin Muyu also knew that Shi Yan had long been tired of the vendetta between the divine realm, so she did not make things difficult for her. She stood in the night sky with the two peerless beauties and watched the war of the Protoss. Colorful laws were colliding everywhere between the mountains and the wilderness. It was like watching a three-dimensional movie. It was extremely exciting. Dongfang Yan was defeated. Dongfang Jin was injured by Feng Zhanlin and Mo Qilin. Most of the 18 god emperors of the Raging Fire region had lost their ability to fight. The battle was over. The only variable was whether they could kill Dongfang Yan. As long as they could kill Dongfang Yan, the Raging Fire region would be completely eradicated. After all, the Raging Fire region was the territory of the Dongfang family. If they did not kill Dongfang Yan, they would be able to rise again. The battle lasted for nearly 6 hours. No one knew how many God Realm experts were lost or escaped in the deep mountains. Lin Muyu ordered them not to chase too far. When the sun rose in the east, the battle was over. Feng Zhanlin, Mo Qilin, Feng Zhanhai, Luo Xingtian and the others came back covered in blood, but their faces were full of smiles. "Where's Dongfang Yan?" Lin Muyu asked. "He ran away." "Then why are you guys laughing?" Chapter 1008. The rays of the rising sun shone on the mountains. This unknown mountainous region was full of huge potholes, and a few mountaintops were even raised to the ground. The pothole caused by the spirit wheel was the largest, and it was like a huge basin. After this battle, the entire mountainous region looked like it had been hit by a meteor shower. There were people everywhere in the messy valley, including the wounded and those God Realm experts of the Raging Fire territory who were captured because they didn't have time to escape. "Use the soul-binding lock," Feng Zhanlin ordered loudly in the crowd. He coughed violently and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The battle was so intense that he vomited blood due to his severe injuries. "Lord of the Feng territory, are you all right?" Mo Qilin asked with a frown. "I'm fine. Dongfang Jin's palm strength is indeed extraordinary." Feng Zhanlin laughed mockingly. "If it wasn't for my Gangqi protection, I'm afraid that sneak attack of his would have killed me." Mo Qilin shook his head and laughed. "However, the Raging Fire territory is finished. After this defeat, it will never be able to recover to its former glory." "Yes." Lin Muyu brought Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi back to the ground. When they landed, they saw Feng Zhanlin and the others putting shackles on the hands of the injured God State experts of the Raging Fire territory, making it impossible for them to use their divine power, let alone their ability to break through the void. There were sharp thorns on each shackle. The thorns pierced into the skin but did not bleed. However, they blocked the flow of divine power. It was similar to the demonic heart arrow in the Shattered Cauldron realm, but much more cruel. "These are the soul-binding lock?" Lin Muyu asked. "Yes, Lin General." Feng Zhanlin knew that he was not from the prehistoric mystery realm and would not know. He said respectfully, "The soul-binding lock is made of a special material that can poison the blood, making it impossible for the wearer to use divine power. The 64 domains have always used this method to imprison God State experts." Lin Muyu nodded. "How many people were captured in this battle?" "Reporting to Lin General, we have captured 9 Emperor Gods, 140 Divine Kings, and more than 400 Ultimate Gods. In addition, we have killed 3 Emperor Gods, nearly 100 Divine Kings and nearly 300 Ultimate Gods. After this battle, the Raging Fire region is almost completely annihilated. There are less than 100 people who escaped with Dongfang Yan. Please rest assured, Lin General." With that, Feng Zhanlin immersed himself in the morning light, closed his eyes, took a deep breath and said with a smile, "I didn't expect our Spirit Sparrow territory to have such achievements today. Destroying the Raging Fire territory is the long-cherished wish of our ancestors, and it has finally been realized in my generation. Thank you, Lin General, for letting me, Feng Zhanlin, fulfill my wish." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "This is what we both wanted. There's no need to thank me. We're already on the same side." "Yes." Mo Qilin said respectfully, "Lin General, we've revived a few hundred captives. What should we do now?" bring them back to the Spirit Sparrow Castle of the Dragon League or? Lin Muyu thought for a while and asked. Dongfang Yan has been seriously injured and defeated, but he still has some strength. He probably doesn't have the guts to return to the territory castle of the Raging Fire region. Where do you think he will go? Well, Mochi Lin thought for a while and said, thousands of miles to the south of the 64 regions, there seems to be no place for Dongfang Yan except the Raging Fire region. After all, the Raging Fire region has been fighting with the other regions in the south for so many years. Not necessarily. A beautiful girl walked out from the crowd. It was Luo Xingtian. She raised her eyebrows and said, as far as I know, not all of the 10 southern regions have been attacked by the Raging Fire region. For example, the Falling Star region in the southwest has never fought with the Raging Fire region. If I remember correctly, the region lord of the Falling Star region, Xianxia, is a friend of Dongfang Yan. It is said that Dongfang Yan once gave 10 beautiful concubines to Dongfang Yan, and Dongfang Yan gave hundreds of precious spirit fruit trees to Xianxia. The two families have never had any conflict. The Falling Star region? Feng Zhanlin could not help but frown and said, this is a problem. How could I forget about the Falling Star region? Lin Muyu had seen the map of the 64 regions and knew the location of the Falling Star region. She said, the Falling Star region is quite far from here. They won't be able to attack it in a short time. Region Lord Feng, how strong is the Falling Star region? Feng Zhanlin cupped his fists and said, Lin General, the Falling Star region has a total of 12 emperor gods, 200 divine kings, and more than 600 ultimate gods. It is one of the southern regions whose strength is second only to the Raging Fire region. If what Luo Xingtian said is true, we may have to face a new opponent. It doesn't matter. We will rest for a while. Yes. Then, Mochi Lin said, what should we do with the domain castle of the Raging Fire region? It is the largest domain castle among the dozens of southern regions. It is more than twice the size of our Lingke castle. Lin Muyu smiled and said, it seems that we will have to change the domain castle again. All the Divine Realm experts of the Dragon League will move to the domain castle of the Raging Fire region. In addition, the domain castle of the Raging Fire region will be renamed Dragon City. It will be the capital of our Dragon League. From now on, it will not change. Feng Zhanlin asked with a smile. No, I won't. Otherwise, I'm afraid all your spirit fruit trees will die if I transplant them again. Yes, Lin General is wise. They are my precious babies. Ha ha. In the afternoon, Lin Muyu led the team to the Raging Fire region. Just like the legends said, the city had been in operation for tens of thousands of years. It was like a towering giant. The city was inlaid with countless glittering stones. These stones contained sealing power, protecting the city from the erosion of wind and sun, and from the attacks of wild animals. With a rumbling sound, the city gate was opened. After knowing that the Divine Realm experts of the Raging Fire region were almost wiped out, the servant army in the city had already announced their surrender to the Dragon League. These servant army were very smart. They knew that they were just vassals. It did not matter who they followed, what mattered was that they could survive. After entering the city before dusk, the name of the city was changed to Dragon City. Feng Zhanlin personally carved the words Dragon League on a 10-meter-high rock. He used hundreds of Divine Realm experts to insert the rock into the open space outside the city to show the majesty of the Dragon League. After that, the next thing to do was ideological work. They had to turn the captives of the Raging Fire region into members of the Dragon League as soon as possible. This ideological work was actually very simple. First of all, Lin Muyu, who had been in the mortal world for more than 10 years, was a king and a commander-in-chief, was simply too good at it. Secondly, Xian used her identity as a seraph to win the hearts of some Divine Realm experts, who would want to be enemies with a seraph. More importantly, Lin Muyu single-handedly defeated Dongfang Yan. This was seen by everyone. Lin Muyu's divine wheel was even comparable to Dongfang Yan's divine wheel. This was more important than anything else. The primordial mystery land admired the strong. Lin Muyu defeated Dongfang Yan and was easygoing. Soon she established an image of a hero in the hearts of the Divine Realm experts of the Dragon League. The 64 regions fought every year and needed such a hero who had the personality of a sovereign and could decide the world with one sword. Just think about it, a god emperor with a supreme disposition, wielding the peerless divine weapon, the Xianyuan sword, and the identity of the left army marshal of the Eastern Heaven Realm. If he didn't pledge his loyalty to such a person, who else could he pledge his loyalty to? Compared to Lin Muyu, Dongfang Yan, Wu Feng, and the others were simply wild gods that had wandered about in the primordial era. They weren't even worth mentioning. In less than 3 days, the hundreds of God Realm experts of the Raging Fire territory who were resurrected in the Battle of the Nameless Valley had almost all pledged their loyalty, except for a few people with the surname Dongfang. And they were imprisoned in the dungeon deep within Dragon City. Late at night, the sky was filled with stars. The huge ice crystals in the sky above Dragon City were incomparably clear, unexpectedly not obstructing the light of the stars in the slightest. On the streets, rows of servants slowly walked by with weapons in their hands. The Dragon League's night patrols were extraordinarily strict. Lin Muyu walked on the stone path, thinking about the fallen star domain. As she walked, a person appeared in front of her. He was wearing a black robe. Who is it? Without another word, the black-robed man fled. Stop. There was no reason for Lin Muyu to let him go. She rushed forward with vigorous steps. She didn't even have time to unsheath the Xianyuan sword, so she directly used her palm as a knife and slashed out the first appearance of starlight. The black-robed man knew that he couldn't escape, so he hurriedly turned around and raised his fist to meet it. Wisps of flames rushed toward his face, and with a bang, his fist collided with Lin Muyu's palm knife. Suddenly a strong counterforce came. Huh. Lin Muyu was shocked. This person was also an emperor god, and his cultivation was not low. Leaping over, Lin Muyu kicked in the air without any hesitation. There was a fierce storm around her ankle, which was the power of the 3 luminaries' all-calamity. The black-robed man couldn't dodge, so he could only raise his arms to block with his fists. Bang! With a muffled sound in the middle of the night, the nearby servant army seemed to be attracted. Many people raised their weapons and shouted, "Who is it? Stop! How dare you fight with Lin General? Don't come over!" Lin Muyu raised her arm to signal the servant army not to come over. This group of people would also die if they came over, so there was no need to let them be cannon fodder. Looking coldly at the masked black-robed man, Lin Muyu raised her hand and slowly pulled out the Xianyuan sword. It was time to get serious. But at the moment when the Xianyuan sword was unsheathed, the black-robed man smiled bitterly and reached out to pull down the black cloth covering his face. He said, "Lin General, stop fighting. It's me. I admit defeat." Feng Zhanlin. Lin Muyu turned pale with fright. The person who sneaked into the streets of Dragon City in the middle of the night was actually Feng Zhanlin. You came out of the dungeon in the middle of the night. What's going on?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Zhanlin smiled helplessly. "To do something that Lin General doesn't want to do." "What is it?" Feng Zhanlin raised his hand and took out a pile of sparkling godhoods that looked like gems. He said indifferently, "The godhoods of Dongfang Sun, Dongfang Gu, Dongfang Zui, Dongfang Yao and Dongfang Mei were all forcibly extracted by this subordinate. I know it's cruel, but it's best for Dragon City to turn these people into useless people. Otherwise, they will always be a hidden danger to the Dragon League if they stay in Dragon City. 1,000-mile dike can be destroyed by an ant's nest. Lin General should understand this better than this subordinate." Chapter 1009. Feng Zhanlin was a resolute and decisive person. Lin Muyu was not surprised that he would do such a thing. Instead, she felt that it was within her expectations. However, her order not to kill the 5 captives of the Dongfang family seemed to have put Feng Zhanlin in a difficult position, forcing the region lord of the Spirit Sparrow region to do such a thing in secret. For a moment Lin Muyu had mixed feelings. After the Xianyuan sword was sheathed, Lin Muyu said helplessly, "Region Lord Feng, did I really do something wrong?" Feng Zhanlin smiled faintly. "No, this subordinate has long heard from Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi about what happened to Lin General in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Lin General is a benevolent general, so it is natural that he does not want to kill captives. However, I, Lin General Zhanlin, am not. Therefore I am the one who did this. Rest assured, the 5 Dongfang family are not dead. This subordinate only took their godheads. They are only mortals now and no longer a threat to us. If Lin General Zhanlin feels that this subordinate has overstepped his authority, I, Feng Zhanlin, am willing to accept any punishment." "Forget it, what punishment is there to mention?" Lin Muyu waved her hand lightly. "Let the 5 of them out of the city tomorrow morning. Give them food and water. Whether they live or die is up to them. Yes, this subordinate understands. Feng Zhanlin smiled cheerfully. Is there any news from the Sky Foothill region? There is. Feng Zhanlin said. The servant army of the Sky Foothill region has been subdued by Wu Feng and his son. The entire domain castle of the Sky Foothill region has become the territory of Wu Feng and his son. It is said that Wu Su slept with 2 of Mochi Lin's concubines last night. Lin Muyu was a little confused. Feng Zhanlin suddenly smiled. However, Lin General Zhanlin does not need to feel surprised. In our prehistoric secret realm, women are like clothes, they can be worn and taken off at will. Wu Su sleeping with Mochi region lord's woman for revenge is expected. That is what a despicable person like Wu Su would do. But how should we decide? Let's finish this quickly. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, tomorrow morning, pick 100 experts from the Dragon League to fly with me to Sky Foothill region. We must be fast. I want to uproot the remnants of the Golden Dragon region. Yes, this subordinate obeys. In the early morning of the next day before the sky brightened, the sound of cooking came from the side hall of Dragon City. The kitchen had already started working. Lin Muyu and the others also woke up early. After eating and drinking their fill, they went straight to Sky Foothill region. When the first ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds, they saw streams of light flying into the distance. The 100 people chosen by Feng Zhanlin were all experts, at least Divine King level. The current Dragon League was no longer the same as before. It had a total of 32 Divine Emperors and more than 300 Divine Kings. They could bring out such a frightening lineup. Even if they chose 100 top experts to attack Sky Foothill region, the strength left behind to defend Imperial Dragon City was still not to be underestimated. Before noon they arrived at Sky Foothill region. Under Lin Muyu's orders, dozens of Divine Kings spread out and blocked the exit of Sky Foothill region. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi went straight to the city gate. Even if they did not shout for the city gate, the people in the castle probably would not open it. Lin General, forcefully breaking through? Mochi Lin asked. His eyes were burning. After hearing that his concubine was slept with by Wu Su, he was already furious. Yes. Lin Muyu leaped forward and unsheathed the Xianyuan sword at lightning speed. The chaos of the common people blasted open the city gate as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Everyone rushed in immediately. Even the servant army guards on the city wall did not have time to react. The Celestial Foothill Domain's domain castle was not big. When they arrived at the palace, they saw an ultimate god hurriedly flying in with a weapon in his hand. The person looked familiar as he was the defeated general that Wu Feng and Wu Su brought from the Golden Dragon domain. Courting death. Mochi Lin roared and slashed with his sword. Blood splattered in the air. That divine venerable was killed in one slash. Lin Muyu released the spiritual pulse technique and quickly found the location of Wu Feng and Wu Su. They were at the bedchamber. It seemed that they did not expect their group to come so quickly. It was so fast that they had nowhere to hide. The invisible elephant technique quickly spread out and sealed all the broken void passages. The next moment, Lin Muyu stood proudly in the air with dozens of emperor gods and divine kings. She looked at the small courtyard of the bedchamber and shouted in a clear voice, Wu Feng, Wu Su, come out. There were many guards in the courtyard, but they did not dare to say anything when they saw so many divine realm experts. Finally, the gold-plated door creaked open, and Wu Su walked out in a disheveled manner, holding a long sword in her hand. She looked at the sky nervously and her eyes were filled with despair. Lin Muyu, Feng Zhanlin, Mochi Lin and the others were all here and their deaths were near. How could this be? He took a step back and fell on the wall. He murmured, didn't the people from Luoxing Domain say that they want to attack the Dragon League? Why did these treacherous people give the Dragon League a chance to breathe? Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows and said, Wu Su, I told you to be a good person. Why are you still so ungrateful? Come, I'll give you a chance today. If you can take one strike from me, I'll let you live. How about it? Wu Su was stunned. Then he laughed wildly in joy. Lin Muyu, you are the leader of the Dragon League. You can't go back on your words in front of so many people. If I can take one strike from you, you have to let me go. Come. Through his spirit pulse technique he could clearly sense that Wu Su's cultivation had stagnated. Half a year ago Wuxia was at the 60th Grotto Heaven stage and it was still the same even now. On the other hand, Lin Muyu had been cultivating hard in the Cave of Gods and Demons for half a year and had ascended to the 69th Grotto Heaven stage. In terms of divine power he was at least 2 to 3 times stronger than Wuxia. What could he use to block his attack? Lin General. Mochi Lin was stunned and said, Lin General, you have to be careful. Of course I will be careful. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Region Lord Mochi, we already have Dragon City. This palace in the Celestial Foothill region, it's fine if I destroy it, right? It's fine. Lin General can do whatever he wants. Do whatever I want. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. I like those words. Feng Zhanlin touched his nose and said, Is it worth being so happy about? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. They could truly understand Lin Muyu's thoughts. After so many years in the Shattered Cauldron realm, Lin Muyu had always been prudent and steady. For the sake of the big picture she would even be held back by some petty people. But now it was different. In the primordial mystery realm, everyone was a god. It was a battle of strength. No one owed anyone anything. So, at this moment Lin Muyu could truly do whatever she wanted. This was probably a gift from the God Emperor. Only when one had absolute strength could they say these words. Wuxia seemed to be a little excited, but she was more nervous. She held her sword and began to release her divine power. At this moment the side door opened slowly. It was the old region lord, Wu Feng. Looking at Lin Muyu, Feng Zhanlin and the others in the air, Wu Feng seemed to have understood everything. He said calmly, Sir, use your strongest power. Don't let them look down on the martial arts of the Golden Dragon realm. His father. I understand. Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said in a clear voice, The women in the courtyard leave. This is none of your business. Don't throw your lives away. It's not worth it. Inside the room, a dozen women in disheveled clothes were fleeing along the corridor. Among them there was a yellow-robed woman who was very beautiful. Mochi Lin looked at her with a pained expression and muttered, Shaoli, you actually betrayed me. Feng Zhanlin burst into laughter. Mochi Lin quickly punched him and said, Feng Zhanlin, you bastard. How can you laugh at me at a time like this? Do you know how much my heart hurts? Feng Zhanlin laughed loudly and said, Motherf asterisk cur. Whoever is serious loses. Old Lin, you idiot. Motherf asterisk cur. In the air Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the Xianyuan sword. Suddenly she raised the sword with both hands. Suddenly the aura seemed to freeze. The scorching sun in the sky suddenly darkened, as if all the light had gathered on the Xianyuan sword. It was still the shapeless elephant spell. Borrowing the power of the sun, moon, mountains and rivers. When the sky darkened, one could vaguely see the light of the stars. The light of the stars fell down and gathered in Lin Muyu's body, causing the Xianyuan sword to vibrate even more violently. At this moment Wu Feng's face darkened. He did not expect Lin Muyu's power to increase to such a level in such a short time. Even he might not be able to withstand this blow, let alone his son who was addicted to wine and women. Die. Lin Muyu slowly spat out a word. The light of the sword instantly pierced through the ground. The entire Sky Foothill region's domain castle shook violently. Wuxia looked at the countless stars falling from the sky blankly. He had never seen such a powerful martial art like the Seven Glorious Stars transformation. He did not know how to block it. The divine power he condensed was like an egg hitting a rock. There was no need to block it at all. Boom, boom, boom. Under everyone's gaze, Wuxia's body was torn apart like a broken leaf. There were countless holes in his body. The blood that flowed out was instantly evaporated. The ground shook violently. The entire courtyard turned into ruins. A pitch-black hole appeared on the ground. There were only sporadic flying lights left in the air. Those were the fragments of Wuxia's divine spark. They were very small and indestructible. My son. Wu Feng's tears flowed down. He looked at Lin Muyu and the others and said, You kill for power and status. How can you be worthy of being gods? You are not gods. You are demons. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. She said each word sonorously, Old Region Lord, you are an elder and should be respected by us. But you allowed Wuxia to defile other people's wives and concubines. You did all sorts of things. So according to the law you should be beheaded. You said that we kill for power and status. We are not worthy of being gods. But what about you? You are a real evil person. Evil people should be treated with evil methods. So, go to hell. I will do whatever I want today. As she spoke, the Xianyuan sword suddenly hummed. Lin Muyu controlled the law of flames and suddenly threw the Xianyuan sword out. Under the control of the imperial sword technique, the sharp sword went straight towards Wu Feng. Wu Feng hurriedly waved his palm to form a shield, but how could he block it? With a bang, he was blasted by the Xianyuan sword, and he fell in a sorry state amidst a broken wall. Lin Muyu withdrew the Xianyuan sword from afar. His eyes turned cold. He said, Feng Zhanlin Mochi Lin go. Bring Wu Feng's head to me. Yes, Lin General. Lin Muyu did not attack again. He had his own principles. He would not beat the old. Chapter 10:10. Lightning and flames clashed. In less than 10 moves, the outcome of the battle was decided. Wu Feng wasn't a match for Feng Zhanlin and Mochi Lin, let alone the two of them working together. Feng Zhanlin carried Wu Feng's bloody head and a godhead as he flew into the air. The head was still dripping with blood. He said respectfully, Lin General, Wu Feng is dead. Lin Muyu glanced at Wu Feng's head. Although this old fellow wasn't a good person as the ruler of a region, it was a pity that he ended up like this. She said, send his and Wu Su's corpses back to the Golden Dragon region to be buried. Yes. Feng Zhanlin was a bit troubled. Wu Feng's corpse is still there, but Wu Su. He was already blasted into pieces by Lin General. There's no way to find his corpse. Forget it then. Let's bury Wu Feng. As for Wu Su, let him return to ashes and dust to dust. Mochi Lin, you're in charge of comforting the servants in the Sky Foothill region. If possible, bring them back to Dragon City. Yes, Lin General. This subordinate understands. Mochi Lin nodded. Lin Muyu looked at the ruins of the palace and couldn't help but feel a bit lost. She glanced at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi beside her and laughed self-mockingly. I've only been here for less than a year and I've already turned this place upside down. Isn't that bad? Qin Yin smiled. Even if you didn't come, there would still be years of war here. It's just that our intervention broke the balance. Tang Xiaoxi blinked. It's all right. Mu, do what you want to do. We'll all support you. That's good. After everyone cleaned up for a while, Feng Zhanlin came back and said respectfully, Lin General, this subordinate has a suggestion. Wind Region Lord, please speak. Since our Dragon League has already conquered the Raging Fire region, we should announce the establishment of the Dragon League to the world. Otherwise, I'm afraid our position won't be recognized by the other powers. The Primordial Mystery Land has always had this rule. Every newly established region will announce it to the world, hold a grand ceremony, and invite all the major powers to attend. Holding a grand ceremony? Yes, it's a ceremony for the official establishment of our Dragon League. Feng Zhanlin smirked. It's good. Let's show the strength of our Dragon League to the other forces in the 64 domains. This way those who have designs on the Dragon League will have to think twice. All right. What do you plan to do, Wind Region Lord? A month later, the founding ceremony of the Dragon League will be held in Dragon City. Let's go back to Dragon City now to write invitations and send them to all the forces in the 64 domains. Those who are willing to come can come and those who are not can come. We can take this opportunity to make friends with the other forces in the 64 domains. In this way, if Dongfang Yan attacks with the Falling Star Field, he will also face pressure from the other forces. All right, let's do that. Yes. Feng Zhanlin and Mochi Lin both agreed with this decision. After returning to Dragon City, they each sent people to write invitations and prepare all kinds of materials for the ceremony. Fortunately, the castle in the Raging Fire region was the largest castle in the south, and the palace was extremely magnificent. It would not be shabby to hold a grand ceremony. This was to announce the existence of the Dragon League to the world. Although it was high profile, it was not a bad thing. Within a month, Lin Muyu continued to silently cultivate with the beauties in the Cave of Gods and Demons, but he still could not break through to the 70th level of the Grotto Heaven realm. He had been stuck here for a month, which made him very anxious. In the middle of the night, it was cold in the Cave of Gods and Demons. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin sat together quietly. Their powers seemed to be connected together. Fire and light were very similar. Fire produced light and heat, and one of the characteristics of light was fire. Therefore, under Shi Yan's suggestion, the two of them cultivated together. Qin Yin practiced the 7 cuts heart technique taught by Xian, while Tang Xiaoxi practiced the Great Fire technique. The two completely different mental cultivation methods could complement each other and get twice the result with half the effort. This was jokingly called dual cultivation by Xian. Under the interweaving of fire and light, the two beautiful girls looked calm and peaceful. Even their snow-white faces and skin looked crystal clear. Their strength was increasing day by day, and the speed of their improvement was much faster than Lin Muyu's. On the other hand, Lin Muyu, who was a few meters away, was not so relaxed. Rays of light from the spirit beads of law lingered around him, and the divine power cyclones danced chaotically, making it impossible for others to get close. At this moment he activated the vigorous divine power in his body and began to break through to the 70th level of the Grotto Heaven realm. Success or failure depended on this one move. The blazing light kept jumping, so much so that Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Xian stopped their own cultivation. The 3 pairs of beautiful eyes stared in Lin Muyu's direction, cheering him on from the bottom of their hearts. The collision of powers in his body caused Lin Muyu's body to tremble slightly. His face was covered in sweat and his brows were tightly furrowed. It was obvious that he was not feeling well at this moment. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi opened their beautiful eyes wide, but they did not dare to speak, afraid that they would disturb him. Just like that, the stalemate lasted for nearly half an hour. Finally, Lin Muyu suddenly raised his head and spat out a mouthful of turbid air that carried a hot aura. The surface of his body was covered with a sparkling and translucent luster, and his entire body seemed to be glowing. "You broke through?" Qin Yin asked with a smile. "Yes." Lin Muyu opened his eyes. A pair of clear eyes flickered with a strange light. Suddenly, the corner of his mouth raised and he said with a smile, "Someone is coming." "Someone?" Tang Xiaoxi carefully sensed and muttered, "No, they will come in about 2 hours." Lin Muyu said, "Impossible, your spirit pulse technique has already sensed so far?" Tang Xiaoxi asked foolishly. Qin Yin could not help but smile. It shouldn't be the spirit pulse technique, but the ability of the 70th level of the Grotto Heaven. "Xiaoxi, you and I have not comprehended the ability." "Oh," on the side Xian smiled. "It seems that you has indeed obtained a new ability. Premonition. This is the reversibility of the samsara wheel, able to foresee some things in advance. This ability is very rare and even I did not obtain it. In the entire Western Divine Realm, only a few God-state overlords such as Eva and Li Fei were lucky enough to obtain it." "I don't know if it is accurate," Lin Muyu said. "It is just a sudden thought in my mind." "You will know in a while." "Yes." Sure enough, after nearly an hour, a rustling sound came from outside the cave of gods and demons. Not long after, they saw Feng Zhanlin, who was shivering from the cold, fly into the cave of gods and demons. He used his divine power to resist the cold and said while shivering, "Lin General, you are all here." "Lord Feng, what is it?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. "Lin General, have you forgotten? Tomorrow is the day of the Dragon Alliance's founding ceremony. It will start in the morning and end in the afternoon. Right now, you can see envoys from the other powers of the 64 domains everywhere in Dragon City. There are even some domain lords who came. Mochi Lin and I have been working hard to attend to them, but Marshal Lin is here cultivating with a beauty." He said this with a bit of resentment. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "All right, I got it. We will return to Dragon City with you immediately." "Yes." They quickly left the cave of gods and demons. As they flew in the air, Lin Muyu asked, "Which forces have come now?" Feng Zhanlin looked a bit excited. "Almost all of them have come. The most powerful domain lords of the northern region, the Gale domain, the eastern region, the Mystic Heaven domain, and the western region, the Fiery Lion domain, have come in person. Even the most powerful domain lord of the middle region, the Devouring Heaven domain, has sent a deputy domain lord. This time, the forces of the 64 domains have given our Dragon League enough face." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "It may not be a good thing. I am afraid that the news of me possessing a supreme personality has already reached the ears of the major forces. They may not have come to Dragon City to congratulate me, but to divide the spoils. Lord Feng, you are familiar with some of these forces. We can pay them a visit and build a good relationship first." "Well," Feng Zhanlin smiled and said, "I know almost all of the realm masters of the major forces, but I don't have a good relationship with many of them. Nangong Lai, the realm master of the realm of mystic heaven, is the closest to me. He's a straightforward man and I've been drinking with him many times. The realm of mystic heaven is the most powerful realm in the eastern region, so it's worth making friends with. Alright, we will go back and pay a visit to Nangong Lai right now. Yes. At night the stars were dim. Dragon City was like a towering giant standing on the earth. Looking from afar, one could see the city was brightly lit. Tomorrow was a big day for Dragon City and also Lin Muyu's big day in this plane. The 100 Flowers restaurant was the most popular restaurant in Dragon City. Although it was called the 100 Flowers restaurant, in fact, it was not a place to drink with prostitutes. On the second floor of the guest room, guards with swords and sabers guarded the corridor. They all had the same insignia on their shoulders, the insignia of the mystic heaven domain. None of these guards were mortals. Even the weakest one was at the God King realm. Seeing Feng Zhanlin, one of them smiled and said, "Lord Feng, you are here?" "Yes, I have brought the leader of the Dragon League to pay a visit to Lord Nangong Lai. The Lord is drinking. Please come in." "Thank you." In the guest room hall, a man was leaning against the wall with a wine pot in his hand. He looked to be in his 30s and had a handsome face. On the table was a dazzling long sword. When he saw Feng Zhanlin, he immediately smiled. "I thought I was going to drink alone today. My old friend is here. Come, let's drink to our heart's content." Feng Zhanlin was a bit embarrassed. "Are you drunk, Lord Nangong? I have brought Lin General here." Nangong Lai was a bit surprised and the drunkenness on his face faded a bit. He looked at Lin Muyu and felt that the young man in front of him was calm and composed. "For Lin Muyu?" Nangong Lai was a bit surprised. "What, don't I look like me?" Lin Muyu was surprised. Nangong Lai smiled. "Forgive me for being frank, you don't look that powerful. At least you don't look like someone who can defeat Dongfang Yan alone. However, since you regard Feng Zhanlin as your brother and Feng Zhanlin is my brother, then you are also my brother. Don't worry about your cultivation. Drink 2 jars of wine first. A hero can hold his liquor." Lin Muyu immediately let down her guard. Just as Feng Zhanlin said, Nangong Lai was a straightforward person. This kind of person was worth befriending. She sat down and called Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan to accompany her. Nangong Lai turned a blind eye to the beauties and raised his hand. "Let's make this clear. We will drink one bowl at a time. Whoever uses divine power to neutralize the alcohol is a coward. Do you dare?" Lin Muyu was stunned, then smiled. "Come on." Good. Chapter 10:11. The wine in the 64 domains was even stronger than the wine in the Shattered Cauldron realm. As soon as the wine entered their stomachs, they felt as if a ball of fire was burning in their stomachs. Furthermore, Lin Muyu, Feng Zhanlin, and Nangong Lai were not allowed to use their divine power to evaporate the alcohol. Therefore, after drinking a bowl of wine, the 3 of them looked at each other and then burst into laughter. "Waiter, serve the dishes. Serve another table." Nangong Lai said excitedly. The mystic heaven realm was indeed rich. After drinking 3 bowls of wine, Feng Zhanlin's face was already red. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, maintained her composure. When the Tianji Empire attacked the Lingdong province, it was winter. At that time, Lin Muyu supported the whole situation by herself. Moreover, Qin Yin was not by her side, so she drank every day. Her tolerance for alcohol had long been trained, and she was even better than Feng Zhanlin. After drinking 6 bowls of wine in a row, Feng Zhanlin was already on the verge of collapsing. He grabbed a chicken leg and danced with joy. Nangong Lai, however, looked at Lin Muyu with a pair of fierce eyes and said with a smile, "Are you okay?" "Yes." Lin Muyu wiped the sweat on her forehead. This was not drinking, this was simply playing with one's life. Fortunately, everyone's physique had long been tempered to be immune to all poisons. Otherwise, they would really die from alcohol poisoning. But at this moment, Nangong Lai suddenly changed the topic. He smiled and said, "Lin General, since you are from the East Heaven realm, why do you want to establish a force like the Dragon League in the 64 domains? You should know that the 64 domains have reached a balance like a calm lake. But the appearance of the Dragon League is like throwing a heavy stone into the lake." Lin Muyu touched her nose and looked at Nangong Lai. She said, "Do you want to hear the truth or the polite words? Let's be polite first. The major forces of the 64 domains have been at war for many years and many people have died. The only way to change this situation is to unite. That's why I established the Dragon League. I just want to find a shelter for all the people who join the Dragon League. Sure enough, you're being polite. What about the truth? Lin Muyu waved her hand. It's very simple. I don't want to be bullied by anyone in the 64 domains, so I established the Dragon League. Whoever dares to provoke me, I will destroy them. Ha ha. Nangong Lai laughed out loud and gave Lin Muyu a thumbs up. Straightforward, true temperament. Come, let's drink another bowl. Feng Zhanlin, this grandson is about to die. At the side, Feng Zhanlin was already shaking his hand. I can't, let me rest for a while. Lin Muyu clinked bowls with Nangong Lai, and the 2 bowls of liquor were drained in one gulp. Nangong Lai's face was flushed as if he hadn't been so happy for a long time. In the mystic heaven realm he was a supreme ruler and no one dared to talk to him like this. But here Lin Muyu and Feng Zhanlin were both on equal footing with him, whether it was in terms of strength or experience, so it went without saying that 1,000 cups was not enough for a bosom friend. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Xian sat at another table, minding their own business and eating supper, too lazy to care about what was going on. The only thing they had to do was to bring the drunk Lin Muyu back. Nothing else was important as she wouldn't die from drinking too much. No one had ever heard of a god emperor expert dying from drinking too much. The table didn't disperse until midnight. Lin Muyu's face was flushed, and she walked out of the guest room with the help of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Feng Zhanlin, on the other hand, staggered and walked out with the help of the wall. He looked at Xian as if asking for help, hoping that Xian could help him. To his surprise, Xian didn't even look at him and left with Qin Yin minding her own business. Wah! Feng Zhanlin vomited and it felt so good. After walking out of the restaurant and onto the street, Lin Muyu slowly pushed away Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hands and said, I can do it now. As he said that, he shook his arms lightly, and the supreme divine power in his body surged, quickly evaporating the alcohol in his body. Almost every inch of his skin was covered in faint red alcohol flames, and his whole body seemed to be covered in clouds. It was a spectacular sight. In just a few seconds his complexion had returned to normal and he smiled playfully. Oh, it's so good to be a god emperor. You can drink 1,000 cups without collapsing. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were speechless while Xian giggled. Behind him, Feng Zhanlin was also a god emperor, but his control of power didn't seem to reach Lin Muyu's level. He vomited again, then chased after him and said, Lin General, I have something to say. What's wrong, Wind Territory Lord? I vomited everything I just ate. Let's find another place to eat supper. Oh right, Lin General, did you notice the last sentence that Nangong Lai said? Oh. Lin Muyu stopped on the street in the night and asked in surprise, what did Nangong Lai say, to be careful on the road? No, Nangong Lai's last sentence was to be extra careful tomorrow. Careful of what? Imperial battle. What's imperial battle? Lin Muyu was stunned. Feng Zhanlin frowned and said, Imperial battle is a rule that has been passed down in the 64 domains for thousands of years. When a new force is born, to gain the recognition of all the forces, it must accept challenges from the experts of the major forces in a grand ceremony. Those who do not lose within 30 minutes will be recognized as one of the 64 domains. It's precisely because of this rule that there hasn't been a new force in the past 300 years. I'm only worried that the major domains will make things difficult for us tomorrow. If they insist on imperial battle, then I'll do it. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and didn't say anything. How can there be such an unreasonable rule? Tang Xiaoxi was a little indignant. Qin Yin also frowned and said, That's right, isn't this a tag battle? It's too unfair. Lin Muyu thought to herself, if you've seen Yuwen, you wouldn't have said that. Feng Zhanlin said, We have to accept it even if it's unfair. This is a rule that has been passed down in the 64 domains for thousands of years. Lin General, what do you think? I'll do it. Lin Muyu looked up at the bright moon in the sky and said, If we refuse the imperial battle, I'm afraid the other forces will look down on us. Since the purpose of the grand ceremony is to show off our strength, we must not refuse the imperial battle tomorrow. I'll do it and there's no need to argue anymore. Unless Feng Zhanlin, you think you can beat me, then you go. Feng Zhanlin nodded and didn't say anything. His strength was above Lin Muyu, but he didn't have absolute confidence in winning. After all, Lin Muyu could defeat Dongfang Yan, but Feng Zhanlin couldn't. You've really decided? Qin Yin asked. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled brightly. I just broke through to the 70th level of Grotto Heaven today, and I'm feeling a little inflated. Qin Yin. The next morning, the sound of drums filled the sky in Dragon City. Feng Zhanlin and Mochi Lin had already gone to welcome the guests, and the open space in front of the Dragon City's main hall was where the grand ceremony would be held. Dragon City had plenty of money, and the venue was surrounded by a forest of guards. Just for the preparation of the ceremony, there were more than 20,000 pots of chrysanthemums. Maids in long dresses walked by, holding exquisite lanterns in their hands. The lanterns in their hands were everlasting lanterns, symbolizing that the Dragon League would never be extinguished. The representatives of the major forces entered in order, and as the true master of the Dragon League, Lin Muyu stood at the seat of honor. She cupped her hands and bowed to each person who entered. Du Xing, the domain lord of the Gale region, had a wretched appearance and was extremely skinny. Zhuang Fei, the domain lord of the Fire Lion region, had an arrogant look on his face. The Fire Lion region was full of talents, and in terms of strength they were not weaker than the Dragon League. As for the strongest of the 64 regions, the Heaven Devouring region, the domain lord did not come, but the deputy domain lord, Zhou Xian, came. Zhou Xian looked very young, only in his 20s. He wore a soft armor, and with a faint smile on his face he walked forward, and his eyes lingered on Lin Muyu for a while and said with a smile, "The Heaven-Devouring region congratulates the Dragon League, and this is our gift." A large chest of gold and silver and a large chest of precious spirit fruits was nothing difficult. Lin Muyu nodded cheerfully and invited Zhao Qian and the others to take a seat. Soon the ceremony began. Feng Zhanlin read the rules of the Dragon League, and over 1,000 immortal state warriors of the Dragon League flew up and formed a forest in the sky. It was a spectacular scene. Just as Feng Zhanlin finished reading the rules, an old man among the guests slowly stood up. He was the domain lord of a northern region, and with a strange smile he said, "Alliance leader Lin Muyu is young and promising, truly admirable. However, the ancient mystery land has its own rules and we cannot break them. However, we do not agree with Keijan." Lin Muyu smiled coldly. As expected, it had come. What was meant to come couldn't be stopped. The other domain lords also stood up. "Yes, but we cannot agree with Keijan." They all looked at the people from the Heaven-Devouring region. Zhao Qian slowly stood up from his seat and said with a smile, "Since it is a rule, we will naturally follow it. Alliance leader Lin, do you know the rules of Keijan?" "Yes." Lin Muyu said indifferently. Deputy Domain Lord Zhao also hopes that the Dragon League will accept Keijan's challenge here today. "It is not that I hope, but that is the rule." Zhao Qian cupped his hands and said, "Please forgive me." The group of domain lords all nodded as if they had discussed this beforehand. Clearly they had discussed this beforehand. It would not be easy for the Dragon League to establish a foothold in this region. In the end, the godly state experts of the Dragon League all looked at Lin Muyu. If the Dragon League refused to accept Keijan's challenge now, it would probably disappoint many people. Fear was the most shameful mentality of cultivators. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, raised her hand and said, "Move away and prepare the incense." The platform in the center of the hall was immediately cleared. Feng Zhanlin held a stick of incense and walked to the side of the hall, lighting it in front of everyone. Plang! The Xianyuan sword was unsheathed, and Lin Muyu landed on the platform in the center of the hall. She said, "The incense has been lit. I, Lin Muyu, will accept the challenge here. May I know who will be first?" The corner of Zhao Qian's mouth rose. He sat there quietly and did not say anything. Nangong Lai crossed his arms and his face was full of admiration. "Friends of mine, Nangong Lai have guts." The group of domain lords looked at each other and no one wanted to go first. However, there were still people who wanted to go first. After all, Lin Muyu's cultivation did not seem to have reached the grand perfection God Emperor realm. Even though the sword in her hand was powerful, she herself might not be that powerful. "I will go first." In the crowd, a domain lord holding an axe stood up. His face was full of muscles and he laughed. "I am the domain lord of the Wind Spirit region, Liang Feng. People call me Mad Liang. I am here to experience your skills." Chapter 10-12. The Wind Spirit region was the smallest of the 15 eastern regions and it was relatively weak. That was why the region lord Liang Feng was the first to fight. If he could defeat Lin Muyu, the leader of the Dragon League, he would at least make a name for the Wind Spirit region. In the future, Liang Feng might be able to attract many god-state experts to join the wind spirit region. The axe was surrounded by flames. Crazy Liang cultivated the law of fire just like his fiery temper. However, people like him usually wouldn't survive more than 3 episodes in a TV series. Lin Muyu looked straight at Crazy Liang. Using the spirit pulse technique, she could sense that Crazy Liang's power was divided into 81 layers. This meant that Crazy Liang was an emperor god with 81 layers of grotto heaven. His comprehension of the law wasn't too strong, which also meant that Crazy Liang wouldn't be too strong. However, the rule of the imperial battle was that the leader of the new force must not be defeated within 30 minutes. Therefore, there was no need for Lin Muyu to defeat an opponent like Crazy Liang too quickly. Below the stage, the person that Lin Muyu was most afraid of was the deputy region lord of the heaven-devouring region, Zhou Xian. Among everyone, only Zhou Xian couldn't be seen through by Lin Muyu at all. This kind of person was the most difficult to deal with. Leader Lin, please enlighten me. Madman Liang gripped the battle axe with both hands and wore a vicious smile on his face. Since you've just arrived here, I'm sure you don't know how difficult it is to establish a sect in the primordial mystery realm. Today can be considered a test. You can talk about establishing a sect after you pass this test. Lin Muyu raised her hand and slowly pulled out the Xianyuan sword. The sword light was piercingly cold, and it glowed with a terrifying luster under the sunlight. She nodded and smiled but didn't say anything. I'm going to attack. Lunatic Liang had a fiery temperament. He rushed over after greeting Yi Shiwen. His battle axe chopped down from the sky. Flames soared and formed a series of flame ripples in the surroundings. It was a type of energy field that could control energy. Ordinary experts would not be able to dodge within the range of Lunatic Liang's energy field. However, it was different for Lin Muyu. Under the invisible elephant spell, he could almost perfectly see through every weak point of Lunatic Liang's domain. It was as if there was a safe zone outside of the lightning. Therefore, Lin Muyu stepped on the wave of flames and slid to the left almost perfectly, cleverly avoiding Lunatic Liang's axe. Puff! Although the axe was powerful, it didn't fall to the ground. Instead, it stopped less than 10 centimeters away from the stone slab. Crazy Liang had a good control over his strength. After missing his first strike, he immediately followed up with another sweep. The sharpness of the axe increased exponentially, turning into a flaming arc that cleaved towards Lin Muyu's position. Lin Muyu landed on the ground and quickly opened his left hand. With a buzzing sound, a golden gourd wall appeared in front of him. Immediately, the surrounding area lords were stunned. Some even laughed, their faces full of mockery. Most of the deities who cultivated in the primordial mystery realm were deities. Many of them had seen the existence of martial souls, and there were many who were born with martial souls in many planes. However, as one stepped into the deity realm, the martial souls became less and less useful. As such, most of the deities treated martial souls as insignificant tricks, and some even thought that they were just playing with them. However, Lin Muyu's martial soul was different. With a violent explosion, Crazy Liang's axe was perfectly repelled by the wall of the gourd. Crazy Liang's arms were numb and he couldn't help but slide back a long distance. He looked at Lin Muyu with a face full of shock. The crowd below the stage was also stunned. Everyone seemed to have underestimated Lin Muyu and his martial soul. Interesting. There's someone like this in the Eastern Heavens realm. Fire Lion Region Lord Zhuang Fei sat firmly in his chair and twirled his beard with a smile. Looks like the Dragon League is not simple. The domain lord of the Gale region, Du Xing, narrowed his eyes with a hint of coldness. The deputy domain lord beside him whispered, "Domain lord, who exactly is this Lin Muyu?" Du Xing shook his head. "I don't know. The ancient mystery realm is isolated from the world. We don't know what happened outside. Perhaps Lin Muyu is already someone who can summon wind and rain in the 3 realms. We just don't know about it. Anyway, be careful." Yes. In the Devouring Heaven region's seat, the deputy region lord Zhao Qian calmly watched Lin Muyu and Lunatic Liang fighting on the stage. He didn't say a word and only tapped his fingers rhythmically on the table beside him. In the host seat, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan watched the fight nervously. They were all worried about Lin Muyu. The Dragon League's founding ceremony was a gathering of experts. With so many experts gathered in one place, whoever stood out here would also stand out in the 64 regions. Lin Muyu might face more challenges than expected. Buzz. The flames slashed across like blades, but they still only touched the tip of Lin Muyu's cloak. Lunatic Liang's every attack seemed to be extremely dangerous, but Lin Muyu could perfectly avoid danger every time. Moreover, Lin Muyu's counterattack was also very weak. Every attack from the Xianyuan sword was easily blocked by Lunatic Liang. He's clearly stalling for time. In the guest seat, a person suddenly slammed his fist on the table, stood up and shouted, "Lunatic Liang, come down. You're no match for him. He's just using you to delay Keijan. Admit defeat and let someone else do it." Everyone looked over. The person who spoke had 2 scars on his face. He looked to be in his 40s and there was a flag of the Falling Star region behind him. Obviously he was the region lord of the Falling Star region, Zhou Xian, who had taken in Dongfangyan. Zhou Xian and Dongfangyan were good friends. Naturally he would make things difficult for Lin Muyu here. On the stage, Lunatic Liang seemed to be a little annoyed. He slashed his battle axe and roared, "Lin Muyu, how dare you look down on me? If you dare to play tricks on me like this again, I'll make you look bad." The continuous attacks had already messed up Lunatic Liang's breathing. At this time he could only use less than half of his strength. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu was calm and unruffled as if nothing had happened. Seeing Lunatic Liang's axe coming at her, Lin Muyu used falling star steps and suddenly moved 1 meter horizontally at an unimaginable speed. Her long sword fell upside down, and the hilt of the sword caught the handle of Lunatic Liang's axe. Lin Muyu's control of power was brilliant. She lifted her foot and gently touched the tip of Lunatic Liang's foot. Her right hand suddenly swung out with his battle axe and suddenly Lunatic Liang lost his balance. Buzz! Flames swirled in the air. Lunatic Liang wanted to forcibly stop his declining momentum in the air. Once he fell off the stage, it meant that he had failed the challenge. But how could Lin Muyu give him such a chance? From behind she sent out a fierce palm, and a celestial image of all living beings appeared. Chaos of all living beings. Peng! There was a loud sound. This heavy force was extremely ingenious, and it just happened to crush Lunatic Liang's power of flying. In the next moment this God-Emperor powerhouse was like a mortal. His thick body fell onto the stone floor with a ping sound and his face was covered in dirt. Lunatic Liang was defeated. Lunatic Liang suddenly sprang up from the ground, his face full of shame and anger. He had been humiliated in front of the leaders of all the forces in the 64 domains, and the entire Wind Spirit territory knew that their territory lord had been defeated. This was really humiliating. Lunatic Liang's face turned red. He picked up his battle axe and was about to go back into the arena to fight. Territory Lord Liang. Zhou Xian, the deputy territory lord of the heaven-devouring territory, who was sitting on the spectator stand, said, "You've lost. According to the rules of the imperial battle, if you fail the challenge you can't go back into the arena. Please return to your seat and wait for others to challenge you." Humph! Lunatic Liang returned to his seat angrily. The God Realm experts of the Wind Spirit territory behind him looked at each other and didn't dare to speak. Lunatic Liang was a hot-tempered man, and there was nothing he wouldn't do if he was provoked into anger. However, after Lunatic Liang was defeated, the people sitting on the spectator stand fell silent again. No one wanted to go back into the arena unless they thought their cultivation was much higher than Lunatic Liang's. A few seconds later, Zhuang Fei, the territory lord of the Fiery Lion territory, took a sip of his tea, looked in the direction of Zhou Xian, the territory lord of the Falling Star territory, and said with a smile, "I heard that territory lord Zhou Xian is Dongfangyan's best friend. Now that Dongfangyan's Raging Wind territory has been destroyed by the Dragon League, do you want to watch your best friend's enemy pass the imperial battle?" As he spoke, Zhuang Fei smiled and said, "The Fiery Lion territory isn't picking fights. We're just taking things as they are. If my friend's force is destroyed, I won't stand by and do nothing. I heard that Domain Lord Zhou Xian has practiced the amazing butterfly knife technique. Could it be that this butterfly knife technique is not used to kill people but to slaughter pigs and chickens?" Zhou Xian's face was livid. A few experts from the Falling Star territory frowned and tried to persuade him. It wasn't wise to step forward at this time. However, Zhou Xian still stood up steadily and said, "Territory Lord Zhuang, you're exaggerating. Although I'm not talented, I'm a man who distinguishes between public and private interests. Since all the other territory lords don't dare to go up to the imperial battle, I, Zhou Xian, will be bold enough to try." As he spoke, he grabbed the two lancets beside him, stepped on the wind and flew up to the arena. Everyone cheered in unison. Zhou Xian was the territory lord of the Falling Star territory, and his cultivation was at the 87th Grotto Heaven realm. He was one of the strongest experts in the 11 southern regions. It was expected that Zhou Xian would challenge Lin Muyu, the new leader of the southern forces. Lancet's butterfly knife skill. Known for his speed, it was said that Zhou Xian could slash out nearly 20 times in a second. No one knew if this was true or not, because Zhou Xian spent most of his time in seclusion and did not spar with anyone. Those who knew of his saber techniques were all dead. Zhou Xian smiled politely and said, "Alliance leader Lin, please enlighten me." Lin Muyu looked at him deeply. Today's opponents were all top-notch experts and she couldn't underestimate any of them. She cupped her fists and said, "Please enlighten me." As soon as she finished speaking, Zhou Xian's figure disappeared. How fast was that? Lin Muyu knew where he was. She suddenly lifted her battle boots from the ground and looked down. She saw that the stone slab she had been standing on had been chopped into pieces by a flurry of knives. Sharp wind blade cyclones danced wildly, cutting deep grooves on the stone slab. Zhou Xian's speed was really fast. Chapter 10:13. Playing. The Xianyuan sword was unsheathed. When Lin Muyu looked down, she saw a blurry silhouette coming from the whirlwind at high speed. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of her. The moment Lin Muyu unsheathed her sword, she slashed out 4 times. Milky white air currents danced around the lancet like dancing butterflies. No wonder this sword technique was called the butterfly blade. Lin Muyu didn't have time to use any techniques, so she immediately slashed out with the blade aimed at Zhou Xian's throat. If Zhou Xian persisted in slashing out these few times, Lin Muyu's spirit wall would be damaged, but the Xianyuan sword would be enough to kill Zhou Xian. Huh! Zhou Xian was shocked. He had never encountered such a fighting style since his debut. She didn't let go at all and fought attack with attack. However, this seemed to hit the weakness of the butterfly blade technique. The reason why the butterfly blade technique could be so fast was because it gave up on defense. Zhou Xian had defeated many people, but they were all too busy blocking the lightning-fast blade technique. The more they blocked, the faster they lost. This was a matter of course. However, Lin Muyu didn't block and saw through the weakness of the butterfly blade technique. Zhou Xian hurriedly withdrew his attack. His body spun in the wind and disappeared again. Practitioners of the law of wind were extraordinarily fast. This kind of movement speed was at least 3 to 5 times that of Feng Jixing. Even Lin Muyu couldn't keep track of it with the naked eye. The wind was so strong that it was almost impossible to open one's eyes. Lin Muyu stood in the air and shouted decisively, "All the phenomena in the world, listen to my command." Immediately the elephant formless domain expanded rapidly. Golden elephant wheels appeared in Lin Muyu's palm. "Oh, what's that?" On the ground, a group of domain lords looked up. "Is it a spirit wheel?" Zhuang Fei, the domain lord of the Fire Lion region, asked in surprise. Zhou Qian, the deputy domain master of the heaven-devouring domain, smiled faintly. But the characteristics of her power are similar to that of a spirit wheel. Interesting. This Lin Muyu is really interesting. Feng Zhanlin and Mochi Lin also raised their heads to look at the sky, their faces full of admiration. Although Lin Muyu's strength was low, her martial arts cultivation was shockingly high. In the air, Lin Muyu had already thrown the elephant wheel into the void. Bang! A muffled sound exploded in the invisible wind, like a muffled thunder exploding. Following that, another 7 or 8 elephant wheels were sent out, and the explosions in the air became more and more frequent. Everyone could only see the purple ripples created by the collision of divine powers in the air, but they could not see what was happening. Swish swish, Lin Muyu's heart suddenly sank. An inexplicable premonition arose in her heart. She immediately raised her sword and slashed downwards. Sure enough, Zhou Xian's figure appeared in the gale. His 2 lancet blades were brandished and the deadly knife Qi attacked. However, it was locked on by Lin Muyu's aura and directly shattered. Bang! The Xianyuan sword directly shook the lancet blades for the first time, activating the light of the 3 luminaries all calamity, and instantly repelled her opponent. Although Zhou Xian's cultivation in the law of wind was very shocking, he focused too much on speed and neglected power. As a result, Lin Muyu's 3rd luminaries was able to directly repel him. Just as Zhou Xian disappeared in the gale, A thought popped up in Lin Muyu's mind again. This time without thinking she backhanded her sword and slashed behind her. Clang! It hit again. The Xianyuan sword collided heavily with the lancet blades. Lin Muyu was ecstatic. That sudden, prophetic thought was the ability to foresee. The ability of the 70 grotto heavens was too useful. It was just that sometimes it could foresee and sometimes it couldn't. It seemed like she still had to practice hard. Zhou Xian's face was also full of shock. This is impossible. But the impossible had already happened. Lin Muyu's dense attacks had already landed. In almost 5 seconds the Xianyuan sword and the butterfly blades had already clashed more than 10 times, and Zhou Xian fell to the ground from the impact. She raised her palm and dozens of elephant wheels fell with a loud bang. Under the pressure of the elephant wheel's domain, Zhou Xian felt as if there was a huge mountain on his head. How could he still maintain flying in the air? His feet landed with a bang, and he held the butterfly blades with both hands to forcibly lift this invisible mountain. He could be considered a man of iron bones to be able to catch dozens of elephant wheels in an instant. Unfortunately, when Zhou Xian looked down at his feet, he felt a chill in his heart. He had landed in an area outside the high platform. Zhou Xian was defeated. Lin Muyu landed slowly and smiled. Territory Lord Zheng, thank you for letting me win. Zhou Xian's face was ashen. He didn't really lose, but the trauma in his heart was far heavier than this. His butterfly blade technique was actually broken by someone he had only met for the first time. What a huge blow it was. I lost. Zhou Xian bowed to Lin Muyu and then shakily walked back to his seat. Below the platform, the territory lords fell silent again. Zhuang Fei glanced at the incense stick and said, "There's not much time left. Who else wants to challenge the leader of the Dragon League? Territory Lord Nangong Lai, don't you like to challenge strong enemies? Why don't you try Territory Lord Nangong?" The Falling Star Territory and the Fengling Territory both lost. Perhaps the Mystic Heaven Territory can save the face of the 64 territories. Nangong Lai crossed his arms and smiled faintly. If you want to save face, do it yourself. Why do you need me to do it? I'm not in a good mood today and I don't want to fight. Territory Lord Zhuang, if you think the leader of the Dragon League is too eye-catching, why don't you try it yourself? We also want to see what realm the Territory Lord of the Fiery Lion Territory has reached. Zhuang Fei was exasperated. Nangong Lai was too unreasonable. Although Zhuang Fei was a perfect celestial emperor with 90 grotto heavens, he was still inexperienced. On the other hand, Nangong Lai of the Mystic Heaven Territory had 92 grotto heavens, Du Xing of the Gale Wind Territory had 91 grotto heavens, and Zhao Qian of the Heaven Devouring Territory had 93 grotto heavens. They were all perfect celestial emperors and their power and laws needed to be in harmony. Although they were all perfect celestial emperors, the power they could exert might be worlds apart. Therefore Zhuang Fei didn't dare to be careless, which was also why he didn't challenge them. The incense stick is about to burn out. Du Xing coughed and said, "Territory Lord of the Fiery Lion Territory, do you really not want to experience the power of the leader of the Dragon League? Why don't you Territory Lord Du Xing?" Zhuang Fei asked. Du Xing laughed and said, "My Gale Wind Territory is just a small territory in the northern snowfield. It's hard for us to enter the Grand Hall. Why should we fight here? But the Fiery Lion Territory is in the western region, and it's close to the Dragon League. Territory Lord, why don't you take this chance to experience the power of the leader of the Dragon League? Are you looking for another good opportunity?" When he said, "another good opportunity," he purposely emphasized it. Obviously, if they didn't fight here the next time they fought, it would most likely be a life-and-death battle. Everyone knew the process of the rise of the Dragon League. First they conquered the Sparrow Spirit Territory, then the Golden Dragon Territory, then the Sky Foothill Territory and finally the Raging Fire Territory. The development of the Dragon League was a process of continuous conquest. If they didn't fight now, the next time they fought would be the time for the Dragon League to conquer the Fiery Lion Territory. The thing that Zhuang Fei feared the most was right. His expression was extremely ugly. He clenched his fists and sat there without saying a word. After a few seconds he raised his head and looked at the people from the Heaven Devouring Territory. The Heaven Devouring Territory was the strongest territory in the 64 territories. At this moment, Zhuang Fei seemed to have the intention of asking the leader of the Heaven Devouring Territory for a lesson. Coincidentally, Zhao Qian also looked at Zhuang Fei and tacitly agreed. He smiled and said, "Victory and defeat are common, not to mention a sparring match. It's not a bad thing for Territory Lord Zhuang to take this rare opportunity to spar with the leader of the Dragon League. Don't think too much. The incense is about to burn out." "All right then." Zhuang Fei suddenly stood up and made a grabbing motion in the air with one hand. A dazzling long spear appeared in his hand. He smiled and said, "Then let the fiery lion territory experience the power of Alliance Lord Lin." He leaped onto the high platform. The fire lion spear in his hand glowed with a dazzling light. The power of flames was extremely vigorous. In terms of the intensity of the flames, Zhuang Fei was probably way above Lunatic Liang. Lin Muyu knew that he was a great perfection divine emperor and did not dare to look down on him. He held his sword and said humbly, "Territory Lord, please enlighten me." "Enlighten me?" Zhuang Fei bellowed. He straightened his fire lion spear and stabbed forward. The flames around the tip of the spear blossomed like an endless fire net. This attack was not as simple as it looked. The entire space seemed to be locked by the power of the flames that blossomed from the tip of the spear, making it impossible for anyone to dodge. Lin Muyu's heart sank. Zhuang Fei's power was indeed not to be underestimated. "Every phenomenon in the world, listen to my command." Chanting silently, Lin Muyu's divine power surged. With his body as the core, a strong wind blew. This time the invisible elephant technique made use of the natural wind. Wind blades swept in all directions like wind saws and collided with the fire domain that Zhuang Fei had condensed. At the same time, the Xianyuan sword turned into a cold radiance and swung forward. Clang! The blade of the sword and the tip of the spear collided and another wave of cold radiance spread out. An inch longer, an inch stronger. Zhuang Fei brandished the spear and unleashed another fierce attack. Lin Muyu quickly dodged to the side. However, he was unable to completely avoid the impact of the flames. The divine wall on his neck had already let out a sizzling sound. Zhuang Fei's divine power seemed to have penetrated into his skin through every pore, bringing with it a burning sensation. Swoosh! The spear entangled the blade of the sword like a python. Zhuang Fei's face was already filled with pride. Although he was a celestial the arch expert, Zhuang Fei was still very diligent in his spear skills. His spear skills and absolute divine power had forged his position as the strongest expert in the western region of the 64 regions. However, a scene that Zhuang Fei did not expect happened. Lin Muyu's wrist turned rhythmically, following which, a mighty force surged from the Xianyuan sword. Pop! Not only did it break away from the fire lion spear, but it also forced Zhuang Fei to take a few steps back. This attack was the thunderclap style of the dragon taming spear technique. Although the power was reduced by several folds using the Xianyuan sword, it was still enough to force back the fire lion spear. Zhuang Fei was amazed. This time he had to take Lin Muyu seriously. She had just stepped into the 70th celestial the arch realm. Chapter 10:14. Let's try this. Zhuang Fei brandished his long spear as a fire lion constellation rapidly manifested at the tip of the spear, causing its might to increase explosively. Fiery light shot towards Lin Muyu, and the raging flame domain transformed into a gigantic whirlpool, as though it wanted to destroy everything. The spectators on the ground couldn't help but be shocked, and even Feng Zhanlin and the rest had no choice but to unleash their domains to defend against the impact of the flames. The entire great hall of the Dragon City trembled unceasingly. Zhuang Fei was serious. Meeting her match, Lin Muyu's heart was not filled with fear but excitement. He suddenly shook his arms and the Xianyuan sword shone brightly. Golden wheels quickly appeared behind him, stacking on top of each other. Nearly 1,000 elephant wheels rapidly gathered. This was the first time he made a move since he had mastered the shapeless elephant spell to the 4th layer of the 1,000 elephants. God-destroying elephants. With a wave of the blade, countless elephant wheels rushed forward. Each elephant will contain the tyrannical power of nature, and its destructive power could be imagined. After waving these elephant wheels, more than half of the divine power in Lin Muyu's body seemed to have been absorbed. She was showing signs of exhaustion and she couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Holding the fire lion spear, Zhuang Fei felt that the elephant wheels in front of him were like a tribulation of heaven and earth. He had to face them head-on, and the only thing he could deal with was the divine wheels. Suddenly throwing the fire lion spear to the ground, Zhuang Fei crossed his palms. His body was still trembling and countless divine power transformed into huge divine wheels in the air, constantly blocking Lin Muyu's elephant wheels. Bang bang bang. The world was overshadowed and there was only the sound of the collision between the divine wheel and the elephant wheel in the sky. Powerful shock waves swept across the sky and the earth, accompanied by the screams of women. Countless maids in Dragon City were so scared that they retreated with pale faces. The earth also trembled and even cracks began to appear on it. Feng Zhanlin hurriedly shouted, "Region Lord Zhuang Lin General, stop fighting. If you continue, Dragon City will be destroyed." However, no one could hear his words amidst the raging winds and raging flames. Lin Muyu and Zhuang Fei's fists had already collided with each other. In the blink of an eye they had exchanged dozens of blows. Every time they collided there would be an explosion of power. It was extremely frightening. With a buzzing sound, cracks began to appear on the jade steps of the main hull, and they continued to expand. Everyone's horizons were broadened. One was a grand perfection god emperor of the western region, and the other was the newly risen Dragon City master. The battle between the two of them was so destructive. Indeed, there were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the prehistoric mystery realm. Feng Zhanlin hurriedly turned to the seat of the heaven-devouring region, cupped his fists and said, "Dragon City has just been built. I'm afraid it can't withstand such a torment. Deputy Region Lord Zhou Xian, please stop the battle between the two. This imperial battle should end here. The heaven cauldron of the domain castle is about to break. This is not as simple as 1 or 2 lives." Zhou Qian frowned. In fact, as a spectator he did not mind the commotion. But since Feng Zhanlin had said so, the heaven-devouring region as the leader of the 64 domains, naturally had no reason to stand aside. More importantly, the heaven-devouring region's intervention was more likely to resolve the battle between the south and west domains. It gave off a sense of superiority, and made the 64 domains respect the heaven-devouring region even more. Why not? In the next moment, Zhou Qian had already disappeared from his seat. All that was left was wisps of white mist that looked like auspicious clouds. Zhou Qian's voice rang out in the air. "Region Lord Zhuang, Alliance Leader Lin, let's stop here. Let's just treat this Imperial Palace battle as a draw." In the midst of the intense battle, the power of the two was like an arrow knocked on a bowstring. The dazzling Xinyuan sword rapidly slashed at Zhuang Fei's waist blade. Raging flames and raging winds swept. The battle was very tense. "Both of you stop." A vast divine power invaded. It was as if a pair of giant arms had appeared in the air, grabbing Zhuang Fei's waist blade with one hand and Lin Muyu's Xinyuan sword with the other. Zhou Qian stood in the air. Su Ran shook slightly like a god descending to the earth. He shouted in a low voice, "This is the end." Zhuang Fei felt that his waist blade could no longer slash down, and his body seemed to be restrained by the power. Lin Muyu had fought several people consecutively and had also used up a lot of energy. Moreover, the strength of her divine power was far inferior to Zhou Qian's. For a moment, the Xinyuan sword trembled slightly in the air, unable to slash down. This time, Zhou Qian had earned a lot of face for the heaven-devouring region. Zhuang Fei gritted his teeth and retracted his strength. Lin Muyu also returned the Xinyuan sword to its sheath. In the air, the smoke dissipated and the ripples caused by the battle also stopped. On the contrary, the ground was a mess. Countless chrysanthemums had been blown to the ground. Even the servant army had formed a shield formation to resist the impact of the airflow. The three of them slowly landed on the stage. Zhou Qian smiled and said, "The leader of the Dragon League is indeed extraordinary. It's really not easy to have such a celestial being cultivation at such a young age. The cultivation of Region Lord Zhuang of the Fiery Lion region is also unfathomable. In my opinion, why don't we call this a draw? Your two families still have to get along in the future. Don't hurt the harmony." Zhuang Fei also did not want to offend the heaven-devouring region. He pulled out the Fire Lion spear from the stone brick and cupped his hands. "Then I will listen to Deputy Region Lord Zhou Qian's arrangement." Lin Muyu said, "So, does the Dragon League pass the challenge of the Imperial Palace battle?" Zhou Qian turned to look at the incense burner, and saw that the incense had burned out with the help of the wind. He smiled and said, "Of course. From now on, the Dragon League is a new member of the 64 domains. I hope that the Dragon League can take on the responsibility of eliminating the strong and helping the weak, and maintaining peace in the 64 domains. As he spoke, Zhou Xian revealed a meaningful smile and said, Alliance leader Lin, you should have heard of this saying. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. The rule of the 64 domains has always been that whoever wants to be the strongest must pay the price in blood. As the guardian of the middle region, the heaven-devouring region will definitely protect the rules of the 64 domains by example. Lin Muyu naturally knew what Zhou Qian was implying. She smiled and said, Don't worry, Deputy Region Lord. The Dragon League has always been one that does not offend us, and we, the Dragon League, only take care of those who try to provoke us. After all, the people of the Dragon League will leave the primordial mystery land one day and obtain eternal life. Zhou Qian could not help but be taken aback. He then laughed and said, I almost forgot that Alliance leader Lin is from the East Heaven realm. However, it will not be easy for Alliance leader Lin to bring so many gods from the primordial mystery land to the god realm to enjoy eternal life. At least from what I know. His tone softened a little. After all, eternal life was too tempting for the godly state experts in the primordial mystery land. Let alone the people of the Dragon League, even the people of the Fiery Lion region and the Mystic Heaven region could not help but raise their eyebrows. If Lin Muyu knew the way to leave the primordial mystery land and go to the god realm, he would be the savior of this world. Lin Muyu smiled and cupped her fists. Actually, I do not know how to leave the primordial mystery land at the moment, but since I am here, there must be a way out. What do you think, Deputy Region Lord? Maybe. Zhou Qian wore a smile on his face, but in his heart he was almost cursing. Lin Muyu's words at the founding ceremony of the Dragon League was simply buying people's hearts. How many people would submit to the Dragon League and Lin Muyu just for the sake of eternal life? Then the ceremony is about to begin. Distinguished guests, please prepare to enter the banquet. Feng Zhan Lin and Mochi Lin invited everyone to enter the banquet. Zhou Qian led a dozen people of the devouring heaven realm straight to Qin Yin and the others. When they arrived in front of Xian, Zhou Qian smiled politely and cupped his fists. Are you Lord Blazing Angel Xian? Xian nodded and smiled but did not speak. Zhou Qian's spiritual sense kept probing Xian's surroundings, but he could not see through Xian's strength. He only felt that the divine power of light was very vast and penetrating. Suddenly he felt very uncertain. Last time, when the 99 heavenly abode god emperor called Xiao came, he almost turned the 64 domains upside down. He destroyed the spirit wind domain and ancient desolation domain single-handedly. What kind of cultivation was that? Even after the devouring heaven realm went there, Xiao was not afraid at all, and almost fought with the domain lord of the devouring heaven realm, Situ Yun. Thinking of this, Zhou Qian could not help but shiver. Now another unfathomable blazing angel had come to the 64 domains. Xian's cultivation might not be weaker than Xiao's, and she was even stronger in terms of attack. At this moment, what Zhou Qian was most worried about was not Lin Muyu, but Xian's existence. Deputy Domain Lord Zhao, have you seen enough? Xian smiled slightly. Zhou Qian hurriedly cupped his hands. This junior has never seen a person like Lord Xian. I have lost my composure and offended you. Please forgive me. It's all right. Deputy Domain Lord, please take your seat. Yes, thank you. As he spoke, Zhou Qian's gaze swept over Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, and he was immediately stunned. Although their cultivation was not as high as Xian's, their appearance was not inferior to Xian's. Moreover, Zhou Qian actually felt two faint waves of Overgod's power. He could not help but feel a little puzzled. Two overgods appearing in the same place? This was too ridiculous. At this moment, Zhou Qian's gaze swept over Fuzhu. Fuzhu had already changed into a scholarly robe. Coupled with his handsome appearance, he was very eye-catching. He did not care about the devouring heaven territory. He raised his eyebrows and said, Kid, what are you looking at? Even if you look at me again, I am still 100,000 times more handsome than you. Try looking again, try looking again. Zhou Qian was stunned. Who was this beast? He was too arrogant. However, seeing that he was with Xian, Qin Yin and the other beauties, he did not say anything. With a livid expression, he led the group of devouring heaven territory disciples into the main hall to take their seats. At this moment, Lin Muyu walked over and glared at Fuzhu. Why are you so arrogant? Are you going to clean up after offending the devouring heaven territory? Don't eat lunch. Later, Xiaoxi will prepare a dry bun for him and summon some water to drink. That will be enough. Fuzhu had a pleading look on his face. Don't, master. This little beast wants to eat fish and meat, fresh seafood. Chapter 10-15. The ceremony was a big day for the Dragon League, so almost all the best things were offered. When Lin Muyu sat at the host seat, he was shocked by the table of delicacies that he had never seen before. He saw a roasted suckling pig that looked like a donkey and grapes that looked like a woman's breasts. Feng Zhanlin explained, that is a spiritual donkey pig, which we hunted in the mountains after much difficulty. This kind of wild boar can run like lightning and its speed is astonishing. It is even comparable to the Starfall Domain Master's movement technique. As for that grape, it is called milk grape. It is said that it has a very good effect of nourishing the skin. Lin Muyu glanced at him, feeling that Feng Zhanlin had also learned bad things. The people at Lin Muyu's table were basically all nobles. Zhou Xian of the Devouring Heaven Domain, Zhuang Fei of the Fiery Lion Domain, Nangong Lai of the Mystic Heaven Domain, and Du Xing of the Gale Domain were all high-ranking figures among the 64 domains. In addition, there were Shi Yan, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the 2 domain lords of the Dragon League. Therefore, everyone had to be careful with their words and actions. Nangong Lai's gaze fell onto a plate of fruits and he said, could it be the legendary Dragon Claw Sweet Taro? That's right, Domain Lord Nangong has a good eye. Mochi Lin smiled. Dragon Claw Sweet Potato is very good for cleansing the meridians. It is a pity that there are less than 100 of them in Dragon City's garden. This time we have picked 20 of them for the Domain Lords to taste. Consider it our Dragon League's hospitality as a host. Zhou Qian was slightly stunned. Dragon Claw Sweet Potato was indeed good stuff. Because it grew on trees, it would fall to the ground once it was ripe, and would rot quickly after falling to the ground. Therefore there had to be people guarding it. Ripe Dragon Claw Sweet Potato had to be stored in an ice cellar, or it would lose its spiritual power. A well-preserved Dragon Claw Sweet Potato would cost at least 10,000 gold coins, and Dragon City actually used it to entertain guests. Today not only will there be delicious food but there will also be good wine. Feng Zhanlin gave the guard a look. Very quickly, a few maids walked over with wine jugs. Before they poured the wine, they could already smell the mellow aroma. Instantly, Nangong Lai's eyes lit up. What wine is this? So fragrant. There's even the smell of peace heart berry in the fragrance. Could it be the legendary 10,000 years drunk? Region Lord Nangong has a good nose. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. This is indeed 10,000 years intoxication. We only found 2 jars in the cellar of Dragon City. Wow, it's really 10,000 years intoxication? Nangong Lai's face was flushed with excitement as he said, it's said that 1,000 caddies of peace heart berries need to be fermented for 1,000 years before one can brew an authentic 10,000-year drunk. I've only heard of it but never tasted it. This Dragon City is really a good place, there are all kinds of treasures. Smiling, Feng Zhanlin said, if you think Dragon City is good, why don't you join us with the realm of Mystic Heaven? He started to pull people over. However, Nangong Lai was a 92nd level Grotto Heaven Great Perfection Celestial Emperor, so it was not that easy to pull him down. He waved his hand and smiled. Let's talk about this after we drink. The color of 10 millennia intoxication was light blue, but it was delicious and fragrant. When it was poured into the cup, it actually gave off a faint icy aura. Even Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan, who didn't drink much, couldn't help but want to taste this legendary treasure. Speaking of which, it was also thanks to Dongfang Yan. If Dongfang Yan hadn't fled in a hurry and didn't take anything with him, Dragon City wouldn't have so many treasures, and they wouldn't have the luck to enjoy such a treasure. When they began to enjoy the 10 millennia intoxication, a terrifying gaze shot over from not far away. It was Xianxia's gaze. Xian and Dongfang Yan were old friends, so he naturally knew about the existence of 10 millennia intoxication. Now that Lin Muyu and the others took out 10 millennia intoxication to entertain Zhou Qian, Nangong Lai, and the others, Xian probably wanted to kill them. However, there were so many experts from the 64 domains here today, so Xian didn't dare to cause any trouble. During the banquet, Du Xing's attitude towards Lin Muyu was very good. After all, she was a force from the north and was separated from the Dragon League by the entire Middle Territory. Therefore, based on the principle of befriending distant forces, there was no need to offend her. Because of this, so many people challenged Lin Muyu, but Du Xing didn't move at all. Lin Muyu saw this, but she knew very well that Du Xing was a smart man, probably much smarter than all the domain lords present. He understood what it meant to size up the situation. On the other hand, Zhuang Fei, Lunatic Liang and the others were far behind. As for Zhou Xian, he was actually very arrogant. He looked down on the other forces from the bottom of his heart, and in his eyes, there was only the devouring heaven domain. The banquet lasted for 2 days, and on the 3rd day people from the major forces were sent away. At this point the Dragon League was established and the 64 domains began to stir. At the same time, undercurrents were also surging in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Mingshan Province, the southernmost province of the Qin Empire, had Shangyang City as its economic, political and military center. Mingshan Province's main industries were fishing, hunting and farming. There were many mountains and rivers and the people were rich. Therefore the empire didn't send many troops to Mingshan Province. The entire Mingshan Province was 3 times the size of Lingnan Province, but it only had a measly 40,000 troops. Most of them were new troops, and the commander was once the god of war, and now the commander of the Mingshan Province's garrison, Xianxia. At night the governor's mansion was quiet. In the huge office, there was a several-meter-long desk, and Xianxia was wearing a general's robe, carefully looking at the map under the candlelight. Dong dong. An old voice came from outside the door. Master Yu, you haven't slept yet? Xianxia raised his head. Oh, it's General Lu. Come in. Yes. An old general walked in shakily. His face was old, but his spirit was still hale and hearty. He was one of the deputy commanders of the Mingshan garrison, Lu Yongchang. Lu Yongchang joined the army early and had always been in the local army, but he had also represented the Iha country's army to fight against the devil race. He could be considered a meritorious minister of the empire, and now he had become Xiangyu's right-hand man. Under the candlelight, Lu Yongchang looked at the map and said, Master Yu, you have been looking at the map for a day. Have you figured anything out? How many scouts have we sent to Nanman? A total of 20 people. How many have returned? Not yet. Lu Yongchang seemed a little surprised and said, They have just set off for less than a month. It will take a month to reach the depths of Nanman and another month to return. Master Yu seems to be worried that it is too early? Xianxia smiled faintly, took out a stack of documents from the drawer at the side, and gently placed it on the table. General, look at this. What is this? This is the annual reconnaissance report of Nanman. Basically, all the scouts will report back within a month because they will not really enter the depths of Nanman. But this year a month has passed and none of these people actually came back to hand in the order. This really makes me feel a little strange. Lu Yongchang could not help but laugh. The south is a barren land. Other than birds and beasts there is nothing else. Mingshan Province's documents pile up like a mountain every day, and Master Yu does not care about so many important matters. Instead you care about the small matter of the scouts. This is really inconceivable. Perhaps this group of lazy fools is drinking in some tavern. Xiangyu's eyes lit up. General, we have a heavy responsibility, so we must be careful. Otherwise, wouldn't we be letting down the emperor? Moreover, I will not let go of such details. Immediately pass down my order. Send more people to the Nanman wastelands to scout and investigate. Yes, I will immediately send another 100 people. No. Xianxia waved his hand. 100 people is far from enough. Send another 1,000 people. Every 100 people will form a team. Give them enough dry rations and fast horses. Pass down my order. They must explore the Nanman wastelands within a month and only return after confirming that there are no accidents. Yes, this subordinate will do it now. Lu Yongchang closed the door, leaving only the cold wind swirling in the room. Xianxia could not help but shiver. Ever since Tang Wei died he had not had a woman by his side for a long time. Although he was a god he was still a human. How could he withstand so many years of loneliness? At the thought of women, Xianxia could not help but raise his head and lie on the chair. What was a woman? To him they were probably nothing. Now he only wanted to guard the empire's south and ensure that nothing went wrong. Otherwise, if something went wrong in the south, the imperial capital was bound to take action. Although Xianxia and Feng Jixing were not of the same bloodline, they were still imperial great generals. They had fought for more than a decade in exchange for today's peace. Xianxia was too worried about losing it again. Pata! A corner of the crystal on the window suddenly cracked. A cold wind rushed in and instantly blew out the candle. Buzz! Xiangyu bellowed and pulled out his sword. The sword was enveloped in raging flames, illuminating the entire room. But there was nothing, just that the window had been in disrepair for many years. Xiangyu couldn't help but feel a little dejected. A true famed general was tired of war, but he also hoped that the flames of war would reignite in his bones. Xiangyu was exactly like this. In the dense forests of the south, well-trained soldiers were silently making their way through the forest. The banner of the Blackstone Empire could faintly be seen fluttering in the wind. In addition, the low roars of dragons could be heard in the sky. Within the army, under the banner of the commander, Liu Yan of the Sea and Mountain Army was the undisputed commander. He rode a majestic white warhorse as he slowly followed the army. Suddenly, a rider galloped over. It was a scout. "Lord Commander, we've discovered a village up ahead. We've ascertained that it does not belong to the tribes of the south. How should we deal with it?" Liu Yan's voice was somewhat gloomy. "Kill them all." "Yes." On the side, Bailey Yan frowned. Liu Yan looked at him. "What? Does the military advisor think that I'm doing something wrong?" Bailey Yan shook his head. "No, it's the exact opposite. Commander, you're doing the right thing. Our army must march silently. Otherwise, how can we achieve the effect of a surprise attack? Right? How are the Iha Empire's troops? Has Qin Yi, that old fellow, died of illness?" "Not yet. They're on our left. But don't worry, Commander. They're just a few tens of thousands of soldiers. Their battle prowess is low and they're nothing to worry about. Speed up the march. We'll reach the Bright Mountain province within 7 days. We must capture Xiangyang City within half a month." "Yes." Chapter 10:16. On the 15th day of the 4th month, it was already spring in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Hundreds of flowers bloomed in the forest, and the forest was covered in a layer of lush greenery. Early in the morning, a light drizzle had just fallen and it was cool to the touch. The forest was filled with the sounds of weapons rubbing against armor and horses stomping through the mud. From afar, the densely packed army of the Blackstone Empire had already filled the entire forest. At the front of the formation were all armored cavalry. Their warhorses had trophies of war hanging from their necks. These were the heads of the Empire's citizens. Defenseless civilians had been slaughtered, and their hair had been tied to the horses' necks to be used as battle points. Whoosh! From the sky, a figure rapidly descended. It was Fu Yun, the commander of the Dragon Riders and one of the core members of the Blackstone Empire's remnant army known as the Northern Expedition. "How is it, Lord Fu Yun?" Liu Yan asked as he reined in his warhorse. Fu Yun respectfully replied, "It has been cleaned up. It seems that the Great Qin's border guards have already smelled our scent, so they have sent quite a number of troops to spy on us. Unfortunately, they have underestimated the Blackstone Empire. There was a 100-man scout team in front of us, but they have already been dealt with by this subordinate. Commander, pass down the order for the army to advance directly." "All right." Fu Yun smiled and raised his arm. "Continue to march north." Behind the armored cavalry was a group of soldiers with heavy shields. Most of them were freshly trained soldiers of the Nanman tribes, and their combat strength had yet to be tested. Regardless of whether they could participate in the battle, the impatient Liu Yan could not wait any longer. He had to get them into battle mode as soon as possible, because his group had been starving for many days. The Nanman tribes were poor, and Liu Yan's 150,000-strong army and the Iha Kingdom's 100,000-strong army had almost finished all the food that the Nanman tribes had stored for many years in a single winter. Now that spring was in full bloom, they had to go north to find more food for the army. Otherwise, they would all starve to death in the barren forest. When the soldiers passed by, they could smell the faint scent of blood in the wilderness. Looking into the distance, they could see corpses lying in the depths of the forest. These corpses had been soldiers when they were alive, and they could faintly see the bronze and silver-purple flower insignia on their arms. They were the Empire's scout team, and they belonged to the garrison of the Mingshan province. Liu Yan took a deep breath. Godly experts were indeed ruthless. One of them could kill 100 people without a sound, and not a single one of them could escape to report back. Bailey Yan, on the other hand, frowned. He was deeply worried, but he could not say anything about it. Liu Yan grabbed the reins and urged the horse forward. He turned to look at Bailey Yan and asked, "Advisor, what's wrong?" "It's nothing." Bailey Yan smiled. "Counselor seems to be depressed." Is he worried about Qin Yi's army? Of Bailey Mountain. Bailey Yen frowned and said, we are already on the way to the north. However, there are some things that I do not know if I should say. If I say it, it might shake the morale of the army. If I don't say it, Lu Yen laughed. Why are you so troublesome today? Speak, you are the descendant of Marshal Bailey Qin. You can say whatever you want to say and only I, Lu Yen, can hear it. No one will be able to shake the army's morale. Bailey Yen nodded, looked at the newly grown grass and the horse's hoof prints in the mud and said, we now have 150,000 people and nearly half of them are new soldiers. Their combat strength is unknown, and there is also Qin Yi's army of 150,000 people. Qin Yi, that old fox, has not died for a long time, so he must be stalling for time. As for us, Commander, do you really think that our 150,000 people, which is a mix of good and bad, can really conquer the 4 great provinces of Lingnan? What do you think, Counselor? Lu Yen was startled. I don't think so. Bailey Yan's pair of eyes were full of cautiousness and said, the strength of Qin Empire is obvious to all. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and the others are even more formidable, especially Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. These 2 people can be said to be talented in both the pen and the sword. They are not only the masters of the God State, but they are also talented generals with military strategy. In terms of military strength and strategy, I am afraid that we are far inferior to them. Once the Qin Empire crushes us with the strength of the whole country, I am afraid that we will be defeated in less than a month. He. Lu Yen smiled slightly and said, the most important thing that the counselor did not mention is that although the Qin Empire is strong, they are not united. What's more, now that the Congress has made the whole Lanyan city into a mess, Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi and the others are said to be in closed-door training, but there is also a rumor that they have already ascended. In this way, who is the master of the world is another matter. If we do not take advantage of this opportunity to recapture Lingnan, I am afraid that in the future, there will not be such a heaven-sent opportunity. So, Commander has already decided to deal with the Qin Empire in Lingnan? Bailey Yen asked. Yes. Lu Yen took a deep breath. Half a month ago we received a letter from the Empire. Now that the Celestial Empire has suffered a crushing defeat, nearly 1 million soldiers died in battle and their vitality is greatly damaged, but there are still hundreds of thousands of their strong troops at the border, and a variable, the Baizhe mercenaries, has appeared in the north. That Si Kongyao's appetite is not small and sooner or later she will attack the Blackstone Empire, so His Majesty has also made a decision. Rather than fighting with hungry wolves, it is better to fight with a wounded tiger. Bailey Yen was stunned. What His Majesty means is, the Celestial Empire and the Baizhe mercenaries are hungry wolves, and the Qin Empire is a wounded tiger. That's right. The Qin Empire has experienced so many years of war, and their national strength has long been exhausted. They can no longer withstand another war. As long as we attack, we can seize this piece of land. Moreover, His Majesty has promised that as long as we conquer Lingnan, the second fleet of the Blackstone Empire will arrive in a few days, and move to the Shattered Cauldron realm with the power of the entire country. Move? Bailey Yan's eyes were filled with amazement. This idea was too crazy. Could it be that the Blackstone Empire really wanted to treat the Shattered Cauldron realm as a colonial territory? Where does His Majesty's confidence come from? After pondering for a long time, Bailey Yen asked. Lu Yen smiled faintly and said, the sect master of the Thunder Blaze sect, Long Shi, and the valley master of the Wolf Valley, He Song, have already made a secret agreement with His Majesty. As long as we seize the 2 provinces of Lingnan, they will move with all their strength and fight with the Qin clan for the fertile land of the Shattered Cauldron realm. What? The Thunder Blaze sect and the Wolf Valley have decided to participate in the war? Yes. Bailey Yan's face was full of shock as he said, I didn't expect that even the Wolf Valley, which has been dormant for so many years, would involve itself in the war. I really didn't expect. Lu Yen patted Bailey Yan's shoulder and said with a smile, Brother, there are still many things that you didn't expect. The situation is changing. The Thunder Blaze sect and the Wolf Valley also have to think about their future, right? Bailey Yen fell silent and said, Then Commander, what's your first step in the attack? Lu Yan's eyes were full of fierce light as he said in a deep voice, First seize the southernmost Oxhorn city of the Bright Mountain province, then attack Yu City and Lai City on the left and right, forming a pincer attack on Xiangyang City. Within 10 days we will conquer Xiangyang City in one fell swoop. Within half a month, We will conquer the entire Bright Mountain province. Good, so the commander has already planned it out. Bailey Yen nodded. I hope everything goes smoothly. A day later. The heavy rain had stopped. After a spring rain, all living things were in full bloom. Oxhorn City was a county city with hundreds of beautiful flowers. The pear blossoms and peach blossoms dozens of miles outside the city were pleasing to the eye. To the south of Oxhorn City was a forest. Many hunters lived at the edge of the forest, but there were no hunters further in. This was because the forest was too dangerous with spirit beasts running rampant in it. Therefore, to ordinary civilians, the depths of the forest was an unpredictable forbidden land. No one went there unless they were courting death. But on this day a group of reapers appeared in this forbidden land. As the massive dragons circled in the sky and the armored horsemen swept across the earth, the dense army of the Blackstone Empire swept through the entire southern part of Oxhorn City like a dark cloud. The defenders of the city didn't even have a chance to resist before they were routed. Fu Yun led a squad of dragon riders and blasted open the city gates. Lu Yen led his men in and the cavalry surrounded Oxhorn City. The defenders of Oxhorn City were all killed, and even the messenger birds they had sent out into the sky were hunted down by the dragon riders and wolf falcons. The people far away weren't even able to receive a single piece of news. After leaving behind 500 men to defend the city and restocking the granaries, Lu Yen and Fu Yun split up. Fu Yun led tens of thousands of soldiers to attack Lai City, while Lu Yen led the army along the official road to attack the legendary city of Yu. 3 days later the army arrived within the borders of the city of Yu. Along the way there was very little resistance. The most powerful resistance force only had 3,000 men, but they were all slaughtered until they were in tatters, unable to retaliate at all. City of Yu was a city that towered between mountains. The surrounding terrain was extremely precipitous and mountain forests extended endlessly. However, the area around City of Yu just so happened to be flat, suitable for farming. As a result, after thousands of years of reproduction, a city was formed here, and it was named City of Yu by the Qin family's ancestors. Over the countless years, City of Yu had given birth to countless capable and ambitious people. Among them Lin Muyu, who came up with the plan of crossing the mountain ridge, as well as the late marshal of the Iha country Long Qianlin, were both people from City of Yu. However, on this day City of Yu was about to usher in a calamity. Before Lu Yan's army arrived, City of Yu's 4 city gates had long been tightly shut. The soldiers on the city walls were all on standby, and the dragon-hunting crossbows and magic crystal cannons had also been pushed onto the city walls. Compared to Oxhorn City, which was caught off guard, City of Yu at least had a premonition. Even though it was only half a day of premonition, it seemed to be enough. On the city walls, the general of the defending army was an old general of the Iha country named Man Sun. It was said that he was the distant nephew of Marquis Man Ning, but there was no way to verify this. Man Sun was skilled in leading troops, and he had a great reputation in the Iha country. People called him General Sun. It was precisely because of this that Xiang Yu felt at ease leaving such an important city like City of Yu in his hands.